Hello, this is a first look at Debian GNU Hurd version 2025 that was just released August 10th, 2025. This is the first time that I use Debian GNU Hurd, so this is a first for me. There are 3 files available, a CD image for AMD64, one for 32-bit, and a QEMU virtual machine where the operating system has been pre-installed. The number of developers and developer hours contributed to the GNU Mac and GNU Hurd and Debian GNU Hurd per year is not that great. So it's to be expected that not all Intel x86 motherboards are supported, not all CPUs are supported, not all USB drives, NVMe, etc. So generic modern hardware support might not exist at all in Debian GNU Hurd, or might be just starting to work correctly and might not be tested enough. So for the first of my tries, I'm going to actually use the pre-installed QEMU virtual machine image. So let's do that. Let's get a text editor. So it says that we should download the one of the two QEMU images, either 32-bit or 64-bit. 64-bit is a very recent addition to GNU Hurd and Debian GNU Hurd. So probably the safest is to go with 32-bit. Let's be adventurous though and go with the 64-bit version. So it's a tar.gz image. Let's extract it. xzvf. So we have a 4 gigabytes image. And now we should prepare the QEMU kvm command line. Okay, so kvm random access memory size 2 gigabytes and drive the file with extension img. Network interface card and port TCP22 from the virtual machine is going to be forwarded to the host machine, localhost 127.0.0.1 on TCP port 2222. Looks okay. Let's actually start a terminal in here. GNU grub. Boot messages. Okay, so the operating system is installed on this QEMU virtual machine image, and we'll need to log in. So I didn't know the combination, local Debian GNU Hurd username plus password. The FAQ is offline for the moment. The updated FAQ is also offline. But searching on the internet, Debian GNU Hurd QEMU image username and password says, so this is probably the URL of the newer FAQ, says login as root and the root password is empty. Okay, we would like to see the FAQ, but doesn't work at the moment. Let's exit Ctrl-Alt-G, exit the grub, and try to log in into the machine also using SSH. So SSH. How do you provide the port? No, -P. Okay, I can remove the previous. I want to continue, no password. And probably in the SSH server config, passwordless root is not allowed to connect. We'll continue to use the caches from Google search and also the AI overview. So we're going to try to set a password for the user root, and then maybe we can connect via SSH. So it says that the command is just similar to what you would expect. There's auto-completion. Okay, let's log out. Ctrl-D works. I could log in from QEMU. So -P port. Okay. Let's continue following the instructions from the Google search AI overview. If we cannot log in via SSH as the user root, that's to be expected. It's been the default SSH configuration for tens of years. So let's try to create a user, a Hurd user, and we'll try to log in using SSH as that user. So says add user, username, new password, full name. Is the information correct? Ctrl-Alt-G. Okay, so we were successful. We could connect to the GNU Hurd virtual machine using another user as than the user root. So we created a user named admin. We could connect using this user. So in broad lines, the instructions in here work, but with caveats, like they're not meant for beginners because the instructions skip a ton of steps. So the instructions should be for beginners and should say, we prefer that you use the 64-bit image than the 32-bit image because it's a bit better. It should say we support more than 2 gigabytes of random access memory, and this is the maximum value that we support for the 64-bit virtual machine. It should say that once you QEMU starts the virtual machine, you can connect using the user root without password, and then you should set the password for the user root, etc. All of the information that's hidden in the pages that currently do not work. One of the pages started working, the one from gnu.org. From the Google search, I got to these pages from gnu.org/hurd. Instructions for QEMU. So says, just in case you were wondering, the root password is empty. Shows you how to set up QEMU with KVM Linux kernel module, acceleration, how to create an image from scratch, the fact that Debian GNU Hurd knows the network interface card RTL8139. Okay, in case with time zone or locale settings, if you have problems with these, do the following: dpackage reconfigure tz data, and then locale gen. Let's do this because we have this issue that the locale NUS UTF-8 is missing. So dpackage reconfigure tz data. I'm not the user root. No sudo. Geographic area Americas. New York. Tab key. OK. /etc/locale.gen. Okay, and I should put what in this file? I searched on Google for nano/etc/locales.gen. I get to the Arch Linux wiki, and it says that you probably always want to have inside /etc/locale.gen the English US UTF-8, and then additional languages if you use such things. Save the file, Ctrl X, Y, enter, and then locale gen. And there's no such thing. Let's search a bit. So this is a Debian system. Do we have access to the internet? Seems so. Can we install packages? It uses snapshots, Debian GNU /Hurd 2025. Modernize sources. Okay, so nothing to upgrade and nothing to auto remove, and the latest metadata of deb packages available in the remote repositories has been downloaded to the current computer. Let's see if there's apt file. Yes, there is. Let's install it. We need to run apt file update. Let's search apt file search. So in which deb package that's not yet installed is the file locale-gen. So for some reason apt file does not work even though it's installed, and I have run apt file update twice. My computer is my host computer is Ubuntu 2504, and if I run apt minus file space search locale-gen, it says that the name of the deb file is locales. Let's search and see if it's installed. It's not. I'm installing it. And it has generated the locale automatically. So probably there's no need for us to actually run the command. Okay, so it says that you should edit /etc/locale.gen and then run locale-gen. We should disconnect and reconnect and see if we get the same errors again. Control D. We're not a user root anymore. Control D. We're not connected via SSH anymore. We're connecting again via SSH. And now we do not get any errors about a missing locale. Darnassus.sceen.net started working. And in here we have better instructions. So install QEMU, we did that. Download the image. It doesn't say anything about the 64-bit image. And in here it says that the network interface card that's supported is also the Intel 1000. Login as user root, the password is empty. I have changed the password of the user root. I have updated and upgraded. There is a user named demo with empty password. No need for that. I have created one named admin. There's sudo. Let's see how that works. So probably I need to be the user root. Okay. G password -a admin and sudo. Control D, sudo su, and it's not enough. And now it started working. So maybe this was the magic part, logout via logout. Okay, so we're somewhere. We basically have a small virtual machine that's running GNU Hurd Debian 2025 release in text user interface mode. So it has everything except a graphical user interface, no X server, no desktop manager, no desktop environment, etc. And there's a large selection of the packages that you can install using apt command. And networking also works correctly. So the news page, there's the FAQ and the latest version of the FAQ. The latest version is related to this release. And in order not to navigate and see all of the entire FAQ on the same page, there's this link, this page with all items inlined. So the web page FAQ_inlined. And in here you can just search for, you know, xorg or what you're searching for. Let's look a bit at the user land, at the Debian support. So apt search mc. Let's see if Midnight Commander has been ported. It seems to. And we're going to look at the configuration files for the OpenSSH SSH server. There's a /etc directory. We're looking for SSH, sshd-config, authentication, permit, root, login, prohibit, password. So exactly what we expected. You can connect using the user root if you're not using a password. For instance, if you're using the SSH pair of keys, public, private. Okay, so everything is extremely familiar because we have thousands of deb packages. The source deb package is similar from the Linux version to the Debian GNU Hurd version. Also, the binary packages are kind of similar. The file system layout is similar. /etc looks the same. /usr looks the same. Many of the command line text user interface applications that you know and use on Linux are available here. Let's see if there's emacs. And there is apt install emacs no x. Removing emacs gtk. Is that? Okay. So emacs tilde slash a.txt seems to work okay. There's no colors. Save no. Exit anyway, yes. Let's try something even more daring. Let's try either X11 or creating the virtual machine from scratch, eventually also using virt-manager. So let's see what hardware do we have at our disposal. So there was the RTL 8139 E1000, 64-bit or 32-bit kernel mode. The 64-bit one does support RAM disks, but then RAM disks do have some issues, but then RAM disks support SSDs. RAM disk support is still relatively experimental. If you're just a casual user, you can use the 32-bit port. But that would probably mean ID hard disks and 2 gigabytes of random access memory for the virtual machine. Let's try everything. Let's try first our luck with 32-bit. So CD image i386. Which one is that? So this img zipped and targ zipped. This is this totally looks like the QEMU image. So maybe the ISO is in here. Okay, so let's try first the ISO 32-bit. This part of the FAQ also says that without RAM disk, there's support for IDE as we expected, but there's also support for SATA. So let's try everything. New virtual machine, ISO. Debian Hurd. Random access memory. Let's assign it 4 and it will ignore the extra random access memory that it cannot access. SMP, I'm not sure how well it works yet, so let's keep just one vcpu. Okay, so that's Debian GNU Hurd. Customize. BIOS, the older motherboard. Not sure if this one supports SATA. Let's go with ID just to create the oldest possible virtual machine. So ID disk, ID CD-ROM, network interface card E1000. And let's begin installation. So it might be possible that also without RAM disk, without 64-bit, you could use SATA instead of ID for an extra speed increase. Okay, language English. Space selects. I needed to press enter. United States, American English. So in order to release the pointer, we need to use left control and left alt. It's stated so in the title bar of this window. I couldn't make virt-manager work correctly with any of the two ISOs. The 64-bit ISO just fails and goes back to GNU grub within 2 seconds. The 32-bit one, after I have selected the 3 pages from the installer text user interface wizard about language keyboard layout, it fails to continue. So if virt-manager doesn't work, let's run from the command line QEMU the way that developers of Debian GNU/Hurd have tested and used previously. So back to the announcement web page. Says FAQ latest version. On the right hand of the page, there's a link to QEMU images. The web page URL ends with /hurd/running/QEMU. Says that there are images pre-made, which allows you to just start QEMU and provide the image and that's it. Or you can install from scratch. Let's see how it says. So we have installed QEMU, we have QEMU KVM. Okay, let's create an image. How do we stop KVM? Machine power down. Machine quit. Okay, let's create the image. Can we make this way larger? Let's make it, I don't know, 40 or 30. Okay, then we're going to need the netinst for 386. Let's fetch that. Okay, 1 gigabyte. Let's make this at least 2. So kvm. Do we need to tell it to not emulate a 64-bit machine, but a 32-bit machine? Okay, let's allow at least 2 gigabytes of random access memory. The file name is hd0.img. This is the ISO. Net nick, net user. Let's see if we need SSH during the installer. Probably not. VMware VJ driver is useful for setting up X. And how do you set that up? In here, VJ VMware. Okay, let's see. So we're trying to install GNU Debian Hurd 2025 32-bit version. This part also worked in virt-manager. 1, 2, 3. Also worked in virt-manager. And in virt-manager I never got to this part. It has configured the network interface card, so it has hardware support for the network interface card. It set up the HTTP for IPv4. Host name Debian GNU Hurd. No domain name. Users and passwords. Let's see that. This is probably asking for the password of the user root, but it's really hard to say what it's actually trying to do. This will be enabled for you by adding that initial user to the sudo group. You can lock the root account's password by leaving this setting empty. Okay. So this is probably the password of the user root. I have no clue what it's actually asking, so I'm going to leave it empty. I'm not going to use the user root. I'm going to create another user account, make that sudo. Continue. Please enter same root password again. Continue. New user. Admin. Username. Admin. Please select a different one. Okay. Administrator. Administrator. Password for the new user. password for the new user. Select your time zone. Guided. So it should care about the 32 GB unknown. All files in one partition. Swap partition 1.7 GB. Slash boot 1 GB. The rest is slash and it's ext2. Undo changes to partitions. Finish partitioning. Write the changes to the disk. It's installing many packages, probably from the network. Emacs GTK. I'm not sure if it sets up the X server, but it tries to set up GTK, the graphical user interface toolkit. Okay, so this is the text user interface Debian installer that you probably have used before. Scan extra installation media, no. Debian archive mirror. Snapshot.debian.org. No proxy. Participate, yes. To release grab Ctrl-Alt-G. Let's see what it's doing in here. Choose software to install. Now that sounds interesting. Yeah, but 2 GB of random access memory. SSH server is pre-selected. Yeah, I don't know. Continue. An installation step failed, but you're not going to tell me what. Select and install software. No automatic updates. Okay, we'll try to install the X server some other way then. Some text user interface refresh glitches. So it's installing 76 deb packages. It's installing the bootloader. Install the grub bootloader to the primary device. Yes. Device for bootloader installation. That's a big problem. So HD2 probably was it. Who knows? Should have selected the correct partition device. So HD0 was the the ISO 300 megabytes, and HD2 was 30 gigabytes the virtual hard disk. Yeah, it just doesn't say anything. And we don't know how to switch VTs. And now it worked. So it could not write to the read-only disk, but could write to the read-write disk. Hopefully that's it. Okay, and that's it. The installer has finished. We can reboot. ext2fs. And this is the GNU grub, not from the ISO, but from the virtual hard disk. And that's a problem because we don't want to actually boot here. We want to boot using a different QEMU command line. Okay. So a special command line is going to be used for installing and a different one for running. This guy. So kvm -m2g file hd0 without the cd-rom, netnic, the forward, wow. Can't we edit this one? So 2G, drive cache, write back, file hd0, no cd-rom, net nick model e1000, net user, host, forward rule, and then VGA VMware. Because you want VGA driver if you want to set up X. Go. File system check failed. A manual file system check must be performed. So everything because after the installer has finished, I pressed the reboot button and I didn't immediately stop the virtual machine while it was whatever, while at GNU grub, the grub boot menu. So the computer's finished booting, and then I have closed the virtual machine not cleanly by closing QEMU. After performing system maintenance, press Ctrl D to terminate the maintenance shell and restart the system. Root file system is currently mounted read-only mode. Yeah, this is probably going to be terminal because I have no clue how to fix this thing. I don't know how to use file system check on this operating system. The ergonomics of this is really, really bad. So I need to restart a number of times in order to find out the device that's wrong. So that's partition 5, HD0, so /dev/HD0S5, unattached inode. And now you need to press enter, and there's no echo in here, so just type blindly fsck/dev/HD0S5. Enter. Not enough. Why? A. Wow, that was really, really bad. So you can do history completion. You can press the up arrow key to run the previous command, but there's no echo. You have no clue what's going to be executed. So up arrow and enter doesn't say anything, but you can see the standard output and standard error from the command. So says that it's clean, so maybe we can shut down right now, which I don't know how to do in this operating system. Yay, victory. Okay, so let's see where we are. We have installed the 32-bit version of Debian GNU /Hurd 2025. We're only using 2 gigabytes of random access memory. And we have probably a virtual machine image that's similar to the one that you can download from the announcement page, which means the user root without password. You cannot log in. Okay, that's okay. Administrator. The user that I have created during the installer. Is a sudoer. Let's see if we can connect. The username is administrator. Admin is a bad username. It's already in use or something. We could connect. And we are the user root. Okay, and the usual Debian things work because the networking works correctly and the apt repositories have been configured correctly. So apt update and apt upgrade. It unfortunately shows the repository CD-ROM, so we'll need to remove that if we know how to. This bug also exists in Debian 13 for AMD64. So it keeps the installer ISO in the sources.list file, which is a bug. Sources.list and sources list D is empty. F4, we can choose emacs. So deb cd-rom should be commented out. The rest are okay. It's the snapshot from the release date. Deb src also. Seed main. And now the update will not complain about the cd-rom. Okay, so we have emacs installed, mc, midnight commander. The file system looks as we expect. There's no bugs yet. The installer went completely correctly. Booting the machine doesn't show any issues. The OpenSSH server works correctly. We can connect to the machine. We can run commands. We can copy paste because we're across an SSH connection. Okay, let's try once installing the X server or however that thing works. So it says that in order to run xorg, you need to have the Hurd console and the repeater setup as shown in the chapter above. So let's see those straight in QEMU. Control L works to clear the screen. Check that echo term prints Hurd. Let's do that. And it does. Check that devcons keyboard and devcons mouse exist. How do we do that? There's a keyboard and a mouse. Okay, so we can go even further. There's no X wrapper for the Hurd console. Okay, but what packages do we need to install? X11 common, X server, xorg legacy. I don't know. So the package -L to list the packages which are already installed. Grep X11. There's X11 common there. There's no X server, xorg legacy. Let's install that. Okay, next up. I haven't ever encountered such instructions for setting up a graphical user interface, desktop environment, or window manager, that the instructions are like this. The package reconfigure instead of being apt install and a huge list of packages and meta packages. The package reconfigure, no auto completion, because figure x11 minus common x server minus xorg minus legacy. Via SSH, we have copy paste and richer auto completion, everything, and keyboard navigation. But I'm not sure if any of these steps actually will require a Hurd terminal. So that's why I'm not using copy paste, and I'm just dictating to myself character by character what's in the documentation in the left half of the screen. So the package reconfigure x11 minus common x server minus xorg minus legacy. Let's see that. Allow any user to start xorg. Okay, next. I do not necessarily want Ctrl-Alt backspace. We'll see if the resolution is wrong. You'll need several X packages. Okay, we will not use a desktop manager. Okay, let's continue looking at the instructions. So it says apt install xorg. What is that? Xterm, rx, vt, and a window manager, icewm. No rx, vt. Control left doesn't work to jump one word. So the instructions on this wiki page are not okay, because it should suggest xterm, not rxvt. Okay, that worked. rxvt. Yep. Next up, it says that we should run startx, but how? As the user root or as not the user root? Startx, usr bin ice VM. And what do you know? Graphical user interface in GNU Hurd Debian 2025. Totally not expected. Okay, let's see what we have here. X screensaver. Minute commander. Xterm. Emacs, Vim. Workspaces, a ton of things. Okay, so let's get a terminal. How do we get one? So from the icewm main menu, the start menu, system terminal emulator xterm. Okay. Really cool. And if we're going to try really hard, maybe we can also get a VNC server working. df does exist. 3 does exist. Maximizing works. uname -a. Mount. Swap on. No such thing. MC. Top. Control L. Clear. Control C. PSAUX. PS3. Sudo su. apt install apt file. Apt file update. Apt file search. PS3. I'll search on my computer. Control Alt G. Control Shift T. Apt file search PS3. /usr/bin/ps3 psmisc. Something's not wrong with the so probably the 7-bit characters look okay, but then 8-bit characters, the ANSI text user interface decorators don't work okay. Maybe also because of the locale. Should we generate the locale again? The package locales is already installed. And /etc/locales.gen already exists. All of the locales are commented out except the one that you would expect to be enabled, which is English US UTF-8. So that's not the problem. And MC works incorrectly as the user root, but works correctly as the user administrator. Okay, so that means that PS3 will also work correctly as the user administrator. And let's look at the many processes. So init probably PID1, process ID1. There's a bash in the Hurd console. where we have run xinit. That has started xorg server, which is not using kernel mode code. It's all user space. The xorg server, the xorg server driver, etc. It's using the BIOS graphical user interface API, icewm, which contains a window manager, a main panel, a start menu, a background, etc. From there we have started xterm, the terminal. Where is the mouse? Ooh. Let's see if we can install a better terminal. Apt install Konsole. Yes. Go ahead. There's enough space on the virtual hard disk. The memory is just 2 gigabytes of random access memory. It needs to install many packages because it needs many of the KDE frameworks version 6 and many of the Qt 6 packages and the various libraries that sit below Qt and KDE frameworks. libssh, libsoftwarescale, pulse audio. vdpau, GNU PG, the X libraries. Yeah, that would be a cool bug to fix, such that text user interface applications work as well for the user root as they work for the non-root user. So again, the non-root user has correct text user interface decorations. Midnight Commander looks okay. The progress bars in apt install work correctly. The PS3 lines work correctly, whereas as the user root, it's showing strange characters like A with a circumflex, etc., instead of a vertical bar. Okay, let's see if we can start from the start menu. System, terminal emulator, console. I'm not sure why it doesn't show an icon. Maybe it doesn't support SVG icons. The icevm start menu. KDE system settings, wow. The mouse works okay in here. We can or not increase the font size. Control scroll doesn't, mouse scroll doesn't work. Enlarge font control plus. We were looking at PS3. So this is the graphical user interface session. And there's also the session from the SSH connection, which is this one. Has run update previously. So sshd bash sudo sudo su bash. Okay. Apart from these two, so the graphical user interface interactive user session and the SSH interactive user session text user interface. Whoa, this bug with the mouse is really bad. You need to make sure that you don't exit with the mouse outside of QEMU, otherwise the mouse will not be calibrated. You will not be able to scroll in the window because you cannot reach the vertical scroll bar, the up-down scroll bar. Okay, and the rest are user space, GNU Hurd, Mac, microkernel translator things, ext2 file system in the user space, procfs, ACPI, GNU Mac. Rump disk. PCI arbiter. Okay, there's normal Unix facilities, syslog-d, cron, init, dbus session, okay. So next steps from here on would be to change the resolution of the QEMU virtual machine of the xorg to make more room, make the resolution a bit bigger. I saw instructions on that. Let's see where they were. Says QEMU. From the announcement web page, configuration information or inside the VM such as QEMU point to the same wiki page. The Hurd-install page. I'm not sure if it's a wiki page, but it's a page from debian.org. And in here it talks about the Hurd terminal, the Hurd console, which we do have. Then it says how to start the xorg and how to install it, which we did. And then it says that we might want to change the screen resolution. So let's follow this tutorial and hopefully it works. Okay, so there should be a /etc /x11 directory. There should be an xorg.conf file there, and it's not. There's a directory xorg.conf.d which is empty, and xorg.conf is missing. So let's fix that. Emacs. Wow, not being able to copy is going to be a problem, so let's get back to the SSH connection. emacs xorg.conf. Okay, this is it. Says append to /etc/x11/xorg.conf. So I'm not sure if this thing will work, but we don't have anything to lose. Ctrl X S, Ctrl X C, and log out of icewm. And we didn't enable Ctrl Alt backspace, which maybe wasn't the best idea. Let's see if we can kill icewm. I don't see icewm, I don't see the X11 server. The X server is still running with process ID 3221. How do we kill this thing? I don't know. I should restart the computer, but I do not know how, and I need to learn how to restart Hurd correctly. Otherwise, I might have issues with file system check ext2 next time when I reboot. On the same web page, hurd-install says that there exist the executables halt, power off, and reboot. Instead, you can run reboot -hurd, but properly sync data to disks. Oh. Okay. So login administrator. Ctrl R, start X, Ctrl G, /usr bin ice window manager. And I do not know the resolution. Let's try to make the resolution a bit larger. Let's try setting up a resolution of 720p, 16 by 9. We can do that from the SSH connection. if it works. xorg.conf, and this is the width 1 to 80, and this is the height 720. And reboot. It's not that easy to change the resolution. I can see that xrender works correct. So xrandr space minus query shows various possibilities, says that the default, the current resolution is 800 by 600 with 60 Hertz. And then we could change to some of these other resolutions. I'm not sure how. icewm, I'm not sure if icewm supports such a thing. Quick switch. Taskbar. Show. I'm not sure if there's a setting in icewm to change the resolution. There should be. It's one of the normal things to do in a window manager. But probably we can do it via the command line in xorg, probably via xrandr. So actually it was quite simple using the command line. There's a command line that allows you to add new mode lines. I didn't need to do that. There's a command line that shows all of the possible mode lines. xrender minus query. Then you need to find out the name of the connection. You look for the word connected and then the word before it. So in this case, it's default. In the examples in the left-hand side, there's disconnected VGA and connected LVDS. So the display name, the output name is actually VGA or LVDS in the examples, VGA1. But for me, it's default. So xrender minus output, default, minus mode, one of the values in the first column. So that's 720p. And if you want to specify a refresh rate, minus rate 60. I can see that it's supported in here. And it changes the resolution to anything you want. You can even go bigger than this. This is 1080p with no refresh rate. Okay, so we managed to also change the resolution. Console seems to just work. Next up would be for me to enable a remote desktop protocol server such as XRDP, which probably does not exist. Let's search. There is. Who knows, maybe this just works. If not, the VNC server, Tiger VNC. which will then allow me to change the resolution of the virtual machine in very easily. Just resize the VNC client window or the RDP client window, which means that I can use the web browser on my computer and copy paste will just work of text, which means that I do not need to install a web browser inside the virtual machine. It's just 2 GB of random access memory, so you probably don't want a web browser in there. And I'm not sure if the web browsers actually work correctly. And then the next step, to create a second virtual machine very similar to this one, but to be 64-bit, not 32-bit. And then in there, try to make the virtual machine 6 GB of random access memory. See exactly how much the operating system sees out of that 6 GB of random access memory. And maybe with that, you can even install parts of the KDE Plasma 6 desktop environment, or maybe the entire desktop environment. So if nothing crashes, then having a full desktop with everything, including copy paste of text work, but no web browser, is really great for an operating system that still struggles with SSDs, NVMe, large disks, SMP, so to use more than one vcpu virtual CPU, struggles with real hardware, with real world network interface cards, etc. So this is it. This was how to install the new version release of Debian GNU Hurd 2025. Thank you.